Time is now 6:30. I'd like to call this meeting to order. We'll stand and pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, roll call. Mayor Stadler. Ted Demay. John Cabela. Here. Tom Sinkowitz. Here. Adrian Ferrara. Here. Linda Norman. Linda Fedor.
Here.
Keith Shield. For the evening, because we are short, Linda, I'd like to extend voting privileges to you.
Yes.
You accept?
Yes.
Okay. First order of business is the, am I allowed now? Not yet?
No.
How's that, better? Okay. First order of business is the review and acceptance of the minutes from the previous meeting, January 19th. Do we have any corrections to be made?
I have a correction.
Okay.
Under D, Board of Ed 2% policy,
Yes.
it says all in favor. Actually, I abstain.
Thank you. Do we have any other corrections or comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes as they are presented with the amendment on section D.
I'll make that motion. I'll second.
Okay. Do we have any further discussion? If not, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, first order of business, and before we get to it, I'd like to say that during the course of the meeting, there will be participation on a couple topics from the audience. So bear with us as we have some late developing information that will impact some of the things that we have on the agenda for tonight. First being discussion about the town procurement policy. And I'd like to make note at this time that we've received advice that it needs to be reviewed before we make any action from the town charter. It needs to be reviewed by the town attorney to verify the scope of our jurisdiction on this particular item, in addition to DOE procurement policy. So if anybody does not object, I'd like to entertain a motion for contributions from the first selectman that we take these two items and table them for a further date until we get clarification from the town's attorney.
Now, the charter just says it's just for the bid price, correct? Not for your, like in yours, you have your PO price range, and then like $7,500 is the one that only pertains to the charter. From 75 up.
It's our policy.
Yeah.
Under
To go to bid.
Right.
That's the only authorization that we have.
That's the clarification. Clarification is on item B, 95B. The Board of Finance shall set the amount above which sealed bids are to be required. So we just want to make sure we understand what the, who has what authorization. And at that point, then you can talk about it again, but I think maybe this is also an item that could go to the Charter Revision Commission to help us out with clarification.
Do we have any other questions? Any other comments? If not, I will entertain a motion that items A and B be tabled for the time being until we get clarification from the town's attorney.
I make a motion that we table items A and B until it has been reviewed by the town attorney.
All right.
I'll second.
All right. Do we have any other questions or comments about that motion? If not, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, thank you very much. On to the next item, which is our bid, auditor bid. You should all have a copy of this in front of you. Copy was actually also, should have been emailed to you as well, so you had a chance to review it in advance. I would like to ask for some input at this point from our town finance director. She has some comments that she would like to add to the discussion.
If you open up the packet, you can see the first year bid price is $60,500. Our current price for audit this year is $61,000, so it's a $500 deduction. So that's that. It was posted out on the GFOA site and the Connecticut GFOA site, and we received one bid from Mark. There's not many auditing firms right now doing municipal audits. There's maybe 4 or 5 in the state of Connecticut, so it's not a big industry anymore. Way back when, it was maybe 2006, but not so much now.
Okay, do you have any questions about the bid?
I guess my question would be basically, how long I'm open for whatever.
They price this out for 4 years,
Yes.
Yeah.
so 4 years from now would be $62,000.
Yes.
$1,500
Yeah.
overall.
Right, which isn't bad.
Right now, we're at 61.
61.
So all in all, it would be in excess of $1,000 at the end of 4 years.
At 4 years, yes, correct. Yeah. They do charge, like, if there's any additional auditing that's out of the realm of a normal audit, they would charge you more, but on average, we don't have that.
And that's what you're using unit prices down here for?
Yes, yeah. Yeah.
Are there any other questions or comments about the audit? Bid?
I'm just open for a time frame, whether you want to do it 1, 2, 3, 4 years. It's probably the only question I have.
I would say do it 4 years out, we'll get the price already, and 4 years. Retirement. My opinion.
Any other comments, contributions? If not, I'll entertain a motion on this.
I make a motion to accept Markham's bid for 4 years for the town audit.
I'm sorry.
Okay. We have a motion on the table to accept the bid for 4 years. Any other questions, comments? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Abstained? Thank you very much. This time in our meeting, I would like to introduce and welcome to the microphone the Superintendent Paul Breton to really kind of give us some more insight onto the HVAC situation, if you will, or the school facilities.
Good evening. I brought a few items here for people who may not have them, so let me hand 3 items to everyone and then make them available to everyone who's not here. I have a copy of the HVAC study. I have the memo, which I put together related to some recommendations, and then I also have, at the request of Gary Stallavoin, the roofing study, which is related. Yeah, if you want to. We're going to pass these around like we were back in elementary school. So.
Can I get a copy of the HVAC report? Absolutely. Thank you. I'm sorry. Thank you. No worries at all. The previous HVAC study that had been done by the district, which was used for our capital improvement plan, was approximately 5 years old. It was originally done by Silverman, who was here. As part of this year coming in, knowing that there was additional federal funds available, we put out a bid to have individuals come do an HVAC study of the district. The bid was awarded to HF Lentz. And this is their preliminary report. And I want to specify for the Board of Finance, the report actually has 2 parts. They do a preliminary report. Following that preliminary report, there's a public meeting where they go through. Individuals have the opportunity to ask questions of that report. That was attended by the Board of Ed, members of the public, and Gary from your board came to that meeting and asked questions. From that meeting, we put together a series of additional questions and guidance that individuals had related to the HVAC study, their recommendations, and timeframes. It is the goal of the next steps of the Board of Education are to put together for HF Lentz, who's doing the study, some proposed timetables of when we might look at projects, what we like to do. HF Lentz then comes back, makes final recommendations, and as part of it, they make a recommendation of a bid cycle. The reason why the bid cycle is very important is, let's take Plainfield Memorial School, which I'll speak to in a second, which is identified as the study of the most needy school. A bid cycle to do work on HVAC in that building would first require an engineer. Per our conversations with Lentz, the consultant, we would want to be doing that bid in the fall because that's when the largest numbers of individuals are bidding on those projects. We want to do that bid in the fall so that in January or February we have individuals who are looking to bid the projects because largely these school projects are seasonal and need to take place in the summer. If we don't have those bids going out very early because we don't have the engineering report to us by Christmas, we'll miss a bidding cycle. And we'll miss a full year, and even more so, we won't get the most competitive bids. So you truly want to bid these jobs at the proper times to make sure you're doing it at the times when the contractors are looking for the jobs, and that we have the ability to have those pieces. What you have here on this piece, which is my report, it's the report I put together for the Capital Improvement Committee of the Board of Education. It's listed as a HVAC memo. If you don't have that, I can give that as well. Per the findings of the study, I've grouped the needs in the district into Group 1 projects, which are the most immediate projects, Group 2 projects, which are the next projects we should take on, Group 3 projects with dates to be determined, and then Group 4 projects. Again, remember, I'm an old teacher, so I have lots of handouts to talk to. No worries at all. Did these go around?
No. Thank you.
So speaking to the Group 1 projects, as noted in the HVAC report, if you had a chance to read it, there's a barometric relief damper that's failed at the ECC that must be repaired immediately. We're actually working to put that out to bid right now. They estimate that'll be about $50,000 based on the study. There's also discussion of the need for commissioning to occur in the high school system. Commissioning of a system that large takes some time. It involves multiple trips to the school, taking a look at it because they need to do commissioning at different times. They need to commission when the building is warm, they need to commission when it's cold outside, they need to commission the rain and the snow, and then other pieces that the commissioning experts know that I don't know. It's a recommendation that commissioning be done every 15 years. That is a 2006 building. It has not seen commissioning of that system since its original construction, so it's due. It is noted in the report that there are some elements of the high school heating and cooling system that are simultaneously calling for heating and cooling. I don't need telling a homeowner why that would be incredibly inefficient. So our 2 number 1 projects, or Group 1 projects, which we intend to tackle immediately, are addressing commissioning at the high school and addressing
the ECC. The commissioning at the high school, we believe, and we've applied for Art Besser funding because we believe that will be Art Besser eligible based on the HVAC requirements of that grant. When we take a look at the Group 2 project, the Group 2 project is listed as Plainfield Memorial School. It is by and far our neediest school when it comes to HVAC. At this time, there are 2 classrooms with no heat at Plainfield Memorial. They are being augmented by electric heat, which we've put in to keep those classrooms warm enough to operate, but the heating systems have failed completely. If you take a look at the note that the individuals have put in, they have recommendations for what should go into the school. It is an older system. The recommendation for all of our schools that don't have their internal ventilation control systems is to go with a system that is DOAS, DOAS, and DX split system for heating and cooling. And you'll note that for that particular building, the cost of that would be approximately $2 million. We don't know the full cost because that is an estimate based on the square footage and the cost of comparable project based on what's in the full report. That full cost would come out after we had the engineering report done, and then after that went out to RFP. Those RFPs are federally controlled, so there are a lot of things in there like bid bonds and other pieces which I can speak to if individuals have questions. The Group 3 projects would be Moosup Elementary School. Moosup Elementary School, as noted in the report, has many thermostatic and energy management systems that are not functional. And my recommendation would be to address an DOS DX split system project for that as well. Plainfield Central School has 2 sections. Presently, the old wing, which is the 1980 wing, consistently experiences more problems than the 1991 addition. As noted in the document, the main handlers in the office, library, cafeteria, and gym are old, outdated, and very tired, and heat's not delivered consistently throughout the building. This is a pneumatic control system for which the parts are no longer available. It's my recommendation that as a Group 3 project, we work to address HVAC with a DOS DX split system for heat. And finally, the ECC, the report on the ECC, that's the Early Childhood Center, which is also where our central office is located. The current controls which run the systems are outdated. We can no longer get repair parts for those. And it's my recommendation that in a Group 3 project, we address the controls. Group 4 projects, which were the areas that had the lowest priority, were the heating and cooling systems at Shepherd Hill, Plainfield High School, and actually the heating and cooling system at the ECC, which per the report, while it is an older building, the heating and cooling system largely, which dates from the 2000 edition, is doing well. It simply needs controls updated and that barometric. I apologize, I'm not an HVAC expert. The barometric relief dampener, which needs to be repaired. The next step in this is for me to take this to the Capital Improvement Committee. These are my recommendations to the Capital Improvement Committee. The Capital Improvement Committee of the Board of Ed has not yet taken a vote on this. That meeting is 6 o'clock on the 23rd. And once they do that, they will approve our capital plan. We are also waiting on a little information from the state of Connecticut, as you may have read in the news. Our current governor has in his budget $88 million for school ventilation repairs. And it's not yet designated how that money will be dispersed or how that money is applied for. Certainly that's something we're going to be watching very closely as we're looking at all of these projects. The next piece that I would just like to mention as part of this is the question came up from one of the Board of Finance members during the HF Lens presentation on the high school roof and the high school roof's ability to support the heating and cooling units that are on it right now. If you look at the report that I've given you, which I believe is from CHA, which is the roofing report, on the second page of this, there are 3 recommendations. In essence, what the report says, and this was done by the town engineers, about 2020. At about 2020, what you'll note from this is that they have not identified that there is a structural issue, that it works as was designed. They do recommend that if we wanted to stiffen the roof, there is a beam which we could replace. It is not a mandatory replace. The roof is not failing right now. It is something we can explore. Since the 2020 report, there has not been work done on that beam. At this time, from ice dams and other pieces, we have experienced, as you would in an 18-year-old roof that is built the way that roof is built, some leakage. That is something that we're working through
through and will continue to work through. The replacement of the flat roof at the high school, the ceiling of it is in the 5-year capital improvement plan, and it has been for the last few years. But I wanted to address that question publicly because I think there was a misperception that there was a larger issue with the roof than there is.
Yeah, because I know when I was brought up at that meeting a couple of years ago about the door not closing, so that was the last I heard about it. That's why I brought it up.
It's a good question.
Yeah.
Is that still an issue?
At this time, we are, yeah. And per the recommendations of the report, we are encouraged to keep it open if we're going to have a heavy snowfall so that it doesn't impact the basketball, which we had last night.
Does anybody have any questions?
We will have a larger, more comprehensive report on HVAC now that we've given our guidelines to HF Lens. I'm simply waiting on the board capital improvement committee to give me the blessing to give them that feedback. If you have any questions from the report that you've read, please send them to me, and I can make sure that HS Lens has the ability to address those. Questions from us or someone?
Now, we got into Group 1 projects, we talked about ECC and that leak barometric, leak damper. That has to be replaced immediately.
Has to be replaced immediately.
Are you in a position to take care of that immediately?
We believe we are. Thank you for asking.
So our next step, you're gonna go to your committee,
The next step is to go to the capital improvement committee.
then get there, okay, then after that,
Then after that, we go to HF Lens. HF Lens will put together the plan. By that time, we should have further information from the state on what funding is available for these projects and what funding may be available in the next 5 years. And then we'll look at, the most urgent school to tackle right now is Plainfield Memorial. And I think it's a question that the Board of Ed and the Board of Finance have to talk together about with where the town is on the order in which these projects are tackled. I do recognize the high school is a 2006 project. That means that that comes off the books in 2026, I'm sorry, 2026, which is something to consider as part of this as well.
okay, so that first part, then we'd be looking to try and get that scheduled in somewhere around 23.
Ideally. I'd let the board make that decision. I get myself in trouble when I answer those questions without that going through my board. Right. Plainfield Memorial. It's the 4-5 school next to the middle school.
You mentioned your capital improvement meeting is on the 22nd. Where is that meeting?
It's on the 23rd. It's on Wednesday. It's being held at the high school. It's being held right before, we have a public meeting on the 23rd next week.
And what time is that?
That's at 6 o'clock. And while the question's asked, and I have Mike. Since you asked about the 50,000, I also just wanted to give the Board of Finance an update on where we were in the 2%. With permission.
That was on the agenda.
Oh, is it on the agenda? Oh, I'll skip that. Okay. Thank you for your time.
All right. All right, our next item, and this one is, I'm going to give the superintendent a few minutes to sit down, but he's going to come right back up for a minute. I had put down to discuss the MBR and some opportunities and that it might present, but there's been some new, I don't even know how to verbalize it, so if you would please, I want to mumble this up, I think you're more in tune with what it's taking.
Hello, I'm Paul Brenton. I'm the superintendent of schools here in Plainfield. During conversations with the state around excess costs, we received notification that we may be in a position where MBR is fixed next year. I've got a conversation with Kathy Dempsey scheduled for early next week. I'm going to have documentation from the state related to that, and I'm going to be sending that to the Board of Ed and Board of Finance. So at this point, it'd be my request to table conversations on MBR until I have that question answered. Thank you.
So on item E, I would entertain a motion to table this discussion until he is able to provide us with a more accurate and updated information.
I'll make that motion.
All right. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? That motion passes. Thank you very much. The next item on our agenda is to review the town budget statement. You should have that in your packet for this evening. I'd like to begin by asking a few questions, if I may. All right, on state revenue, that Mercer sales tax, that hasn't changed in a while. Do you expect that to change anytime soon?
We receive that payment in June every year.
Is that okay?
Yeah, that's one of the last disbursements the state does.
And do we expect that for long?
Yeah.
Down on local revenues, we had quite a jump in this past month. Do we foresee any problem or the remainder of that?
The collection and the remainder of that.
Yeah.
I'm discussing with the police department about their miscellaneous revenue right now. That might have been overstated, so we'll keep a closer eye on that.
Okay. Now, on the property tax revenue, we expect to be able to...
Yeah, there'll be some more payments coming in on that, yes. You can see the back tax revenue is above the budget.
Right, that's
Yeah.
good news.
Yeah.
On that first page, each other portion is that.
Police other duty, that gets posted at the end of the year. We find out what they have for a receivable and post that, and then book the revenue. So as of right now, you probably have revenue about 40,000.
On page 2, on local revenues, fund balance, school pension usage of 2%, I'm assuming that gets posted later in the year.
Yeah. What happens with all the fund balance items for revenue, we wait to the end of the year to see what you brought in for revenue and what you expense. And the net of that is what you take from the fund balance if needed. Sometimes we bring in more revenue than what you need in the fund balance, so we don't even touch it. So the audit report would reflect that.
Any other questions on page 2? On page 3, under the town clerk general index, on the actual, the last month, previous month was higher. What happened?
Well, the general index for the town clerk, that can be used for historical documents also. So we have an accounts receivable account for historical documents. Money comes in, town clerk can keep $1, $3 of that, and you can use that money for such things. So that was an item that we used for historical documents. I think it was $5,000.
Any other questions on page 3? On page 4, under fire marshal, where the line of salaries, we haven't expended a whole lot there. Is that we anticipate having anybody, so that could be a real cost savings for the town toward the end of the year?
Yes. Yes.
They haven't been called out from any issues so far, so far, okay.
The overtime in the highway, that included that big storm in this?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it did. But this past time did not. Yeah.
All right, any other questions for on page 4? Any questions for page 5?
Economic development. Printing and copy, that never seemed to move. And I've gone back about the past couple of years,
Yeah.
and I've noticed very little movement in the past 3 years. Right now, it looks like we're quite a bit, we put quite a bit in there for going with.
We discussed publications, we might be able to put some of that money to, and also different groups where we may want to join and be part of, but nothing's been moving on as of yet.
We don't spend anything on printing here.
Not a lot.
Haven't done that either the past few years.
I think it's more digital nowadays versus printed.
I'm in recreation, I'm in part-time salaries, we're running tight toward the end.
Yeah,
Will it be
so,
okay?
yeah, part-time salaries, the bulk of that is summer recreation, so you can see a lot of that being dispersed in July. Right now, there's like basketball referees, that type, the smaller stuff is coming out of there.
Any other questions on page 5? No, we'll move to page 6.
There's still a credit in unemployment, as you guys can know. But we received a recent invoice, so you won't see a credit there for next month.
No questions on page 6? We'll move to page 7. I do have one on capital expenses on the town's building repairs. We spend like $4,000 in a month.
Some of those transactions are still being, most of it's pool related.
Any other questions?
More repairs.
We haven't paid for the feedback yet. Yeah.
Oh, we went out to bid for that, we're still discussing the regulations of the agent. So we haven't yet dispersed any funds, they haven't started the project.
I have to remember that when we go piece by piece, there are also some boiler that's working for both areas. So we have concerns about how we're going to be able to wean that off, proper way to do it.
We also have listed $130,000 for the highway truck. Will we be able to purchase one this year? Is
We
that
did,
possible?
we went out to bid, we purchased, but they're not in yet. So we're still waiting, this is a month now.
Yeah.
I'm hoping to get it by June. We have like 5 trucks coming by June.
That's the same answer you're going to get for police and the same answer you're going to get for our 2 trucks we're waiting for here. They're not to be found.
Well, I believe in the last meeting, we said that most likely they're all going to come in all at once.
We're hoping before end of fiscal year.
So will we be under budget on this item, or are we going to be, we're going to be over?
It is
Probably.
Not by much.
Not by much, maybe 2,000, 3,000.
All right, any other questions? If not, we'll move to page 8. Anybody has any questions there? If not, I'll entertain a motion that we accept the financial statement from the town for this current month.
Make that motion.
Okay.
Okay. We have a motion to accept At this time, I'd like to welcome the superintendent back to the microphone, and he can give us an update on where we are with the 2% set aside and the items that have been addressed.
Good evening again, Paul Prenton, Plainfield Board of Ed. What I wanted to do was to give an update of the 2% set aside, where things are. So what I've done is I put this piece together. I have 3 columns there that you'll note. One is the originally budgeted projects. The second piece is and those originally budgeted projects were the projects presented by Mr. DePietro in his presentation of the fiscal year 2022 budget, when he spoke to where he anticipated the 2% capital spending would take place. You'll notice that while many of those projects have been taken in, we've had some additional pieces which were surprising to us, like issues with high school heating and other pieces. The $52,629 at PHS, which was the repair to rooftop unit number 12, certainly was an unexpected expense. The asphalt playground concrete walkway repair, the drainage repair that we needed to do, repairs for classroom heaters. We have engaged in a gym floor project for Shepherd Hill. For anyone whose child has played basketball on the Shepherd Hill gym floor recently knows that it's a little wavy. So these are the projects that we've engaged in at this time. Off to the right, I've noted that these projects are either engaged or moving forward. The Shepherd Hill project, we actually have a bid in on that. We have a contract we're working on. The piece of that we don't know, the reason we haven't moved forward with it, is that the bid included additional cost for the replacement of some boards underneath the water fountain. And we're looking for clarification about exactly what that cost is before we move forward with that piece. The outside doors of the cafe at Lucip Elementary School are scheduled to be done, as is the asbestos tile removal. The asbestos tile removal has to be done the last week of June or early July. That's not something that we can take into account during the year. It is fully sealed right now. We do have a report that has that identified to be taken care of. We're in the progress of replacing some classroom heaters there, hallway heaters, and water heater. The security systems upgrade. You'll actually note that I've written there the full project is $39,518. We did receive a grant. We've received preliminary notice that we've received the state security grant. At this time, we're waiting on the final piece. The security grant total piece is the $39,000, of which we're paying the smaller price of $10,108 based on our reimbursement. We have a drainage issue in the rear of Lucip Elementary School by the rear door going to that parking lot. We do currently have that work contract to be done. It's simply a matter of waiting for the ground to thaw so that we can address that drainage issue at that time. The fire alarm system is something that we have an RFP scheduled for February. It is the controller for the fire alarm system. The fire alarm system is functional, but we've received word that the controller is outdated to a point that should it break, it's not repairable. So we're getting out ahead of that so that we're not finding ourselves in a situation where we have a broken control system and students in a building and we can't immediately repair it. The asphalt playground and concrete walkway repair for Lucip Elementary School is the rear of that building, and that's scheduled to be done. There's a PO already out on that. We have 2 projects that we've been holding on at Plainfield Memorial related to playground doors and a retaining wall. Those are pieces that we will be doing. We've had a couple individuals look at the retaining wall. I think that's a district decision on which direction we want to go to with that. So we're bringing those pieces in. And that retaining wall is between Plainfield Memorial and Plainfield Central Middle School. It holds up an area. There's nothing unsafe about it, but the retaining wall itself, if you look at the side, the concrete's starting to decay off. It's starting to chunk off. It's time to get ahead of that project before it becomes much more expensive. PCS has had in their capital improvement plan library windows, so that's something that we plan to try to tackle. The MCOR repairs for the high school,
are one thing that are part of that larger HVAC study, so we put those off to the side right now. You can see the projects that we've done. You'll also note that we have a projected cost of $55,000 for a plow truck. We currently have one older plow truck that is doing, it's the little truck that can right now, but it's dated. Additionally, within our capital improvement plan over 5 years, we need to replace our 1995 van. I misspoke in a previous meeting. I said it was a Wingstart. It's in fact a Econoline. I have it corrected. But the 1995 van has also lived a very long and fruitful life, and it's time for us to look at that as well. Finally, the $71,609.60 is part of an E-rate reimbursement. Now, to explain to the Board of Finance and to anyone watching, E-rate is a method of funding internet technology for schools, libraries, government institutions. There's two types of E-rate funds. There's level 1 funds, which we get, which actually pays for the internet itself. It offsets the cost of us having internet in our schools. The category 2 funds actually offset the cost of infrastructure. That is your servers, your wireless access points, what they call blades, all of those pieces. Every 5 years, we're eligible for those funds. The cost to upgrade our wireless infrastructure within our schools for all of the schools is approximately $358,000, of which our responsibility as a district would be $71,000. So I have that included here as something that we would go after with the 2% set aside. When I came and talked about the 2% set aside, I said this is exactly what it's for, those co-paying pieces where we have access to federal funds, but we have to match to a certain level. That 80% level is the level that's set actually by the community demographic. So it's not going to change.
Are there any questions?
Did you say that the hallway heaters were part of the HVAC as well? Is that something that we're holding off on, or?
Mr. Lucio, the hallway heaters at Lucic right now, what's the status of that project?
They are going out to quote. They have not received a quote on that yet. Those are the small, in the wall, in the hall units, and they get really, really hot, but they don't have a good protective system on. The kids can actually get, not necessarily burned, but
They're
it could be
hot.
uncomfortable.
You wouldn't want to stand in line in front of one of them for long.
Okay. All right, sounds going good.
Now, the drainage system at MES, is that the same system that's been in the budget the last 2 or 3 years?
It's been on the capital plan, but yes.
No, in the budget itself, I thought I used to see one in the budget.
It may have been in the budget, but we probably moved it out of the set aside or to the capital. It gets listed in the budget, but we show that we're moving it to the capital percent. And that's the one here to the back. You know where they put in that new gravel parking lot?
Yeah.
Okay. There's an exit set of doors there that the water comes down from the front of the building and pools right there. And the drainage system goes out towards that mansion. And there's a collection area right there, but it doesn't seem to be flowing through there. So that needs to be excavated and relined.
As I said before, my goal is to have shovel-ready projects for the spring so that we're ready to go and prepare when we can in the most timely fashion as possible. And Mr. Lucier is a godsend for helping me get all the RFPs out.
Do we have any other questions?
So this, the 174, that's actual project, that's either project's finished or in progress?
This project's finished or in progress, and in full transparency, the $55,000 for the truck,
Yeah.
I think we've discussed that.
Yeah, technically it's in progress.
Technically in progress.
And if I may add, the board that approved, because that's one of the things in the policy, the board that has to approve before it goes to you. And they approved it last month at their, last week at their weekly meeting. It's all listed out, and I've got a presentation to give to Ms. Vashon that shows exactly what the dollars are that need to be moved to 2%.
So at this point, it's basically safe to assume anything that involves motor vehicles is a project in progress.
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
Very
Regardless of what department.
Yes.
Any other questions? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. statement from the Board of Ed, is that P&E by chance?
No, sir, it's not. Unfortunately, I've been heavily involved in the RFP for our food service. We just received it from Andy Paul last week, and we have to get that to him within the next couple of days to meet our deadline so that we can get the food service in by June 30th. So unfortunately, I cannot copy or send you close.
Would it be possible to have one for our next meeting?
Okay.
Okay, because I think this next meeting, we most likely need 3, because we didn't have one last month.
Well, I sent one last month, I don't know why you wouldn't have got it.
Okay.
I'll check with Tammy.
Okay, thank you very much. At this time, I'll open up the floor to citizens' participation. Anybody has anything that they would like to share, please come to the mic and state your name and whatever your question might be.
I got one. Sean Peterson.
Yes, sir.
A few months back, there was a discussion of buying another tractor and snow blower and stump grinder and all that. Did that get purchased?
Talking about what we already have, yes, that's the vent track system.
It was purchased.
It's purchased and it has been delivered.
And what about the ice rink? We've been talking about ice rink for a couple of years.
It's not in this year's budget.
It's not in this year's budget. Never
Correct.
happened.
No.
Yes.
I just have 2 questions.
Okay, if you could please approach the mic, I'm having a hard time hearing, please.
One, where are we at with the lighting over by the Horsebrook? But I know Mr. Cunningham stated that the lights were purchased and that the highway department.
The lights are here, the poles are here. They now have to work with the company to actually get a cement connection from the base so we put everything together. So we're working on it. It's just a matter of timing right now, and the company is going to be working with the highway department to match it all up.
And I was thinking, could you just clarify any of the drainage issue, because I think here's the back there.
Are you familiar with the Moose Elementary
Yes,
School?
I am very familiar.
Are you familiar with where the new parking lot was built in the back of gravel? If you come towards the school in that parking lot, there's a set of entry doors right there. Right there is where the water is pooling, where it comes down the lawn from the front. Pools by those doors, and there's a drain right there that then goes towards that mansion. Okay? But that's for some reason not flowing. So we've contracted with a local contractor. They're just waiting for the ground to thaw. We've got a PO in place for it. So that's the location. You bet.
Thank you.
Do we have any other questions or comments from those of you that have gathered here tonight? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.